And I sincerely hope you will find someone who will make you happy and fulfilled. You're suited only for the best. Goodbye, James. Hold on, why can't that be you? Wait, you're dumping me? Are you breaking up with me? Thanks, I hope you find happiness too. You nodded understanding, you stared in belief. Hold on, why can't it be you? Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you're new here. My name is Death by Pony and today we're hopping right back in to our life. So without further ado, let's go. In an effort not to show you guys the same stuff twice, I'm going to be cutting around the new stuff with Baxter now that we're in the relationship DLC. So this is going to be a little out of order for this recording. This is going to, I know this is going to go before this actual part of the recording. So when you get to here, you'll know you're here. Alright, where are we at now? The clatter of suitcases hitting the tile brought you back into reality. You'd been zoned out throughout for some amount of time. How long was impossible to guess. But you were in Baxter's room. It was almost exactly 24 hours since the last time you'd been together during the big goodbye get-together the previous day. The scene in front of you then was familiar in a way. You were sitting on his bed and watching as he packed. But there was none of the franticness or excitement of fast-approaching trip to the mountains. In this moment, every motion Baxter made was slow and laborious. This was the end of his time in Sunset Bird. When the job was done, it would be finished. When you'd first arrived at his place, Baxter and you reminisced over the summer well spent, one over all too soon. The task of putting his things into bags was drawn out enough for all possible conversations to have been spent, and a quiet crept in. That's how you'd gotten sucked into your own head, a private reflection on the person in front of you. Baxter Ward had been the harbinger of change in this tiny town, an inescapable sign that the life you'd known for nearly your entire childhood was also coming to an end. But he had become your normal over the summer, and now he was going to change it all again by going away. A part of you wanted to jump out of reality again into your mind. Baxter was ever present but in his room. Baxter had just finished the last task before he left for good. You stared at the neatly gathered bags around Baxter's fancy black shoes. When did that happen? Your gaze drifted to the surface, unsure. Baxter was watching you too, and smiling sweetly.
Thank you.
Thank you for visiting me once more, James. I'm fully settled now, and it is getting late. I believe it is time for you to return home. More accurately, but harder for Baxter to admit, it was time for him to return home. But he simply tapped his suitcase with his foot and kicked the real farewell down the road. Oh. Would you mind if I saw you out? You climbed off his bed. I'd like that.
Very well.
Very good. The bags were left as they were for the time being as Baxter escorted you to the front door onto the street. You both stood there in the very place where you were reunited. Baxter put his most agreeable smile to work. It was there, although called in on what would have been a day off. I suppose this is the most fitting place to say goodbye. It is unlikely we'll see each other again before I am gone. This was it. No getting around things. This was goodbye. Hesitantly, he held up his arm for a farewell embrace. You gave him a hug. You pulled him into a tight squeeze. You wrapped your arms around him cheerfully, after a handshake instead. You kissed him instead. You shifted back unapologetically. Give him a kiss. You pressed into him with your body and lips. He leaned into it immediately. His arms crossed over each other behind you, and both of his hands came to rest on your shoulders. Baxter had tied himself to you with a bow, and you enjoyed every second of it. Then, when you finally untangled yourselves, you put just enough distance between you so you could see each other's faces. Baxter spoke again with a new tenderness to his tone. It was so wondrous meeting you. It was so wonderful meeting you. This has been the best summer, best any particular season I've had in years. I'm never going to forget a minute of it.
Goodbye.
And I sincerely hope you will find someone who will make you happy and fulfilled. You're suited only for the best. Goodbye, James. Hold on, why can't that be you? Wait, you're dumping me? Are you breaking up with me? Thanks, I hope you find happiness too. You nodded understanding, you stared in belief. Hold on, why can't it be you? His features pinched unpleasantly only for a second. Baxter exhaled slowly, smoothing out the creases in his forehead. This normal properness returned, though. It was reserved. He didn't want to upset you if he could help it. I'm leaving. That was the explanation. 2 words. He stated the obvious almost placatingly, a gentle reminder that somehow you would make everything clear. Since you didn't convincingly look like you'd reach a complete understanding of the universe, he continued disappointedly. James, I'll be on the other side of the country. I won't be here to give you rides or make cupcakes together or take you out for drinks. We can't sightsee or go on trips. It should go without saying. So, we can still talk, and that's what matters. We can text, and have calls and a bunch of things. Baxter folded his arms, then caution was quickly giving way to exasperation. I see you don't understand me. Unfortunately, I'm having trouble following myself. Why wouldn't we? We've known each other's existence for approximately 3 months, and you're only familiar with me is what I've chosen to share, which is not much.
I swear.
You aren't a bad person if you don't go immensely out of your way to continue keeping tabs on near strangers. It's fine to leave me be. It's not keeping tabs, it's a normal way to interact with somebody you know. Miranda has an older brother, Jude. He's making a long-distance situation work. The 2 of them have lived near each other for multiple months. Haven't lived near each other for multiple months, ever. Even though they've known each other for years. Oh, is that truly delightful to hear that, and I wish the best for Miranda's brother and his partner. Of course, my rather reasonable prediction is that it will not last. Most relationships don't. As for me, in terms of us, unfortunately, I've quite run out of anything to say. He shot you down entirely, not giving you a single centimeter towards compromise, left you stunned. What happened? Baxter could be hard on himself, but never others. Since when had he been someone so cynical? You were furious at his glibness. That defeated you. Were heartbroken in the dismay. You still didn't want to give up. It made you numb. If that's how he felt, you didn't mind. He clearly wanted to go. If that's how he felt, you would have to live with it, even though it hurt. We'll have to live with it. Okay, Baxter. I understand. Well then, thank you. It is a relief that could be resolved. Sure, but if there is a chance for us to see each other again for some other reason, at some point, way in the future, would you do that? He turned his back towards you, beginning the process of separation promptly. Baxter only spoke over his shoulder. This man! I could say yes to that and have it be true on a technicality. Under normal circumstances, technicalities are my friend. Yet it would be in poor taste here. A chance of that nature won't come after all, and I don't intend to mislead you in the final hour.
I won't trouble you further.
Instead, all I can earnestly promise is that I will miss you and won't trouble you further. He was serious. This was the end of the line for his association with you. He looked into Baxter's obscured face for the last time, and you're smiling at him. Tears were rolling down your cheeks. You're smiling as tears gathered in the corner of your eyes. You couldn't keep a frown on your face. You didn't know what expression you were making. Let me not hit the wrong button. We smile. Oh, okay. Bye, Baxter. Take care of yourself. Remember you too. Have a nice life, Baxter. There's nothing less to say. I'll remember you too. Baxter didn't say anything else. He didn't react. He only stepped forward and closed the door to his rented condo. He was gone. Ever a man of his words, you didn't see Baxter Ward again. And now we choose an epilogue. All right, we're going in. Baxter. Let's see what this does. In between, we'll go with a little nose ring. All right. Done. Feelings for Cove. You know, over the years, a little bit of a crush develops, you know? That's how it be. Yes. Cove's customization, neither. For Baxter, we're in love with the man. We're relaxed. Ready. Yes. Which initiative would you like Baxter for step 4? We'll go with high initiative. And so your days growing up in the loving cradle of Sunset Bird came to an end. In the years that passed since graduation, you moved out of your childhood home and made your own way in the world. You lived alone, lived with a pet, lived with pets, lived with Cove and his fish, lived with Cove, his fish, and the pet you picked. Lived with Cove and his fish. And you were to find company, had a business of your own, co-owned a business with Cole, had multiple ways of earning income, were still focused on pursuing education, co-owned a business in the music, arts, fashion, writing, TV, and movie industry, sporting, gaming, hospitality, health, education, STEM, TV, and movie. Your family members went through the same kinds of leaps into independence. Liz and Lee both eventually earned degrees and started fantastic careers in new towns. But your mom's and Cove's father still lived on the same street as they had for all those years before. It was comforting to you that there were some things that remained in the old neighborhood. And despite ever-changing reality of your adult life, your friends were still your friends, though of course things weren't exactly the same for them either. Very recently, Terry publicly came out as a man and switched the spelling of his name to use a Y instead of an I. He also confessed his love for Miranda, which she excitedly reciprocated. They moved in together recently in the city out past Sunset Bird. Derek was busy as always, but doing well. He always made an effort to keep in touch, and you even saw each other in person occasionally. For the person who'd left the town and you behind. You called and texted, and Baxter never answered. You never even tried to make him talk to you. Baxter obviously wasn't interested. He wasn't interested. You still look back on those summer days fondly, but you didn't feel strongly about him anymore, for better or for worse. The longer he was gone, the more it frustrated you. The longer he was gone, the more it saddened you. We still look back fondly. He made the season special, and you'd always remember that. It seemed your thoughts and feelings would go unheeded by him for the rest of your life. And then there's what became of the sad little boy you grew up with, Cove Holden. Somehow, despite the history you had leaving the streets that kept you together for so long, changed the emotions you held inside. Cove had been a friend for years and years, and yet he started to set your heart racing in a way you never could have imagined for most of your life. He truly thrived in his continuous efforts to cultivate a loving and supportive relationship with his family and friends. You couldn't say his personality had changed exactly, instead it became more refined. Cove was a warm, inviting, considerate man who took the lessons he learned over the years to treat the people around him with patience and understanding. When Cove eventually developed a picture of the future he wanted to have as an adult, it ended up being a surprise to most based on his past interests. He went to college to study marine biology. His ultimate goal was to find an environmental construction job on the side while also working at your shared business, and he still volunteered with Orca when his workload allowed it. As an adult, Cove was also able to recognize and have diagnosed that he was on the autism spectrum. It was something that hadn't been noticed by his doctors as a child, but he was still the same Cove it was to you, and he was just glad to understand himself better. It thrilled you to see how happy and successful he'd grown up to be. Of course, growth and change didn't only occur for people who you knew most directly. It happened to everybody. And particularly exciting bit of news came in the form of an engagement announcement. Miranda's older brother Jude was proposed to by his longtime boyfriend Scott Adam, the guy who'd you'd known as Grant. Learning his actual name after all those years was almost as incredible as finding out the two of them were getting married. After being long distance for a few years, Scott had moved to California to get placed with Jude. You'd even met him in person more than once when visiting Randy and Terry. Both men in the couple were welcoming whenever you'd come around. They loved to look out for Miranda and her little friends. They were in their 30s. For someone barely in the double decades, was barely still a kid. But you counted them as friends of your own. It was like having two big brothers. You only knew them distantly, though. It was like having two big brothers. They sent you a very official letter invitation for their special day through the mail. Terry and Randy were obviously guests as well. Though it was something of a surprise when Cove ended up on the list, he didn't have a personal relationship with either groom. But Cove had attended many Eckler events through his life. Plus, Jude and Scott weren't harsh enough leave one member of the usual gang out. Now the wedding was fast approaching. It was set to be a fantastic day with friends, family, and celebration of the bonds that brought you all together. Unfortunately, making that plan a reality was easier said than done. The happy couple ended up and needed some help. A lot of it. You squinted into the afternoon sun on a quiet suburb street, one bag slung over your shoulder and a suitcase in hand. It arrived at the Adam Eckert household, your place of residency for the next week about. It'd been weeks since you'd started making plans to come down for the wedding. You weren't going to miss it. However, it was a one-day affair, and coming this far in advance was a last-minute request. Jude, Scott, Terry, Miranda, and the rest of the Eckert clan had been putting on the wedding entirely by themselves. They managed the DIY process as best they could over a few months. But it turned out arranging a marriage ceremony and reception was not on the same level as a birthday party, graduations, celebrations, and family reunions. The date was nearly upon them, things weren't finished, and neither man wanted to lose the venue. With no way to magically conjure up more hours in the day, Lucian was have more hands on deck to finish the prep work. That was where you came in, and how you went from simply being a guest to in attendance to joining the official party planning posse. You were glad to do it for them. They had come to your aid if you ever needed something. And at least it was a short trip, even if it took a while to make it. Too bad you had to come a long way to do it, but it was unavoidable. It was a short trip. Miranda was the first to come up to you, circling around from the other side of the vehicle. She was just beaming. You smiled right back at her. You waved. You hugged her around the side with your free hand, held out your arms so she could hug you. Hugs, hugs, hugs. Hugs, not drugs, guys. As much as you missed her, you had to dive into the car as soon as the van door opened and pick up spot. That was your first chance to stand together face to face. Miranda squeezed herself against you, giggling with fresh excitement in what was like being a teen again. Oh, I can get that for you. She reached towards the suitcase as she spoke her intentions. It's the least I can do after all the help you're giving us. I'm tired, but I can handle my own logic. It's fine. I'm not even tired. Well, if you insist, that would be a great. I'm so tired. You shook your head. You gratefully held it out to Miranda to take. Well, if you insist.
Yep.
I do. Last one out was Terry. He hopped from the driver's seat, ready for action. Let's get all this put away. It sounds like you want to pack me in a box or something.
Nah.
Not yet. We can't ship you back until the wedding is over. You chuckled, of course. You offered Terry a high five. You put up a fist bump for him. Hugs. I'm a hugs. Terry threw an arm around your shoulder in response, pulling your heads together. The stubble of his buzz-cut sides tickled your cheek. Time to bring the party inside, buds. He didn't need to say any more. Miranda speed walk ahead, your suitcase in tow, and her sun hat flapping from her firm, determined steps. She had the spare key to her brother's place. You all would have been stranded on the curb without her. Miranda got it unlocked and opened the door, and gestured for others to come in. All three of you went inside. Oh wow, this is a nice house. Mission accomplished. We successfully dropped off James. The reason you were crashing there was because Terry and Randy lived in a tiny city apartment, while Scott and Jude had an entire house. The extra space and free accommodations were a big reason you were able to do this to begin with. If you had to get a hotel room, the plan would have been shot. A downside of living in a tourist-heavy area and of getting married during the most popular season. But it worked out, and that's what mattered. Their home was a chill and comfortable-looking place as long as you imagine what it was like without the absolute mess everywhere. The living room had obviously been co-opted to the base of operations for their crafting endeavors. Every inch of the countertop and even flat enough cushion were piled high with supplies. Thanks for coming to get me. It's good to be here. Now what? What's my first assignment? You nodded along. You stood there unsure. What is my first assignment? I'm glad you asked. You can relax or unpack anything. Later today, we're going to meet up with Jude and Scott for dinner at the Seaside Seafood Restaurant. Off to the side, Terry's arms folded with mock seriousness. Technically, it's a business meeting to make the hiring official, but who cares? Not me. Definitely not Jude Scott. Definitely not Jude and Scott. Does care, but in the opposite way. He's going to be waiting for us. Besides, we're all part of the party planning group. We've got to meet the MVP. Oh yeah, and they found someone to plan the wedding? I still don't know how much he can do this late, but it's probably better to have somebody who knows what they're doing around. Exactly, Randy's gonna come together great. I hope so. Miranda sighed wearily. While you'd started your career on the committee approximately 5 minutes ago, it had already been a long journey for the rest of the crew. Wear and tear and frayed nerves were to be expected. However, your presence had lifted the spirits. Miranda perked up when she spoke again. I'll show you which room is yours, James. Thank you. That is an important part of this operation. Thanks. This is a very plain room. She escorted you upstairs. Terry lingered behind. He assumed you did need to know two people overseeing your unpacking. I hope you enjoyed today's episode, and if you did, hit like. That way I know you're enjoying the content I'm making. Hit subscribe. That way YouTube brings you back here. What happens next. I won't take up any more of your time. Have a good day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.